Hey, Star Wars fans and Rule of the Galaxy fans, it is Joe in the pilot seat of episode 244 of the Rule of the Galaxy podcast. We are live on YouTube. I think we're live on X or Twitter, whichever one you want to call it. And this will be released as a podcast here in the next day or so. But again, it's chapter 244 of Rule of the Galaxy. And obviously, we have plenty to talk about because we just had a nice little Bad Batch sneak preview to all of us, which was shocking. It sent shockwaves throughout the social media world. And we have a special guest here tonight, so that's going to be a ton of fun. We are really excited to have just somebody we all think does great voice work and one of our favorite characters in Star Wars. So we're excited about that. But before we get to our special guest, we'll start around the clock here, and we'll start with D-Doc. How are you, young man? Hopefully you're doing well.
I'm doing good. A little bit of craziness. I have a lot of projects going on, and I decided to start renovating my own bathroom at my house, as you've probably seen on Instagram. So I keep telling people like, yeah, I'm gonna do this and that, and then stuff comes up with the kids or whatever, and then I'm just like, oh man, I don't want people to think I'm lying on these stories, but that's life. So I have a destroyed bathroom in my hallway right now, but it's fun. Things are going good.
Hey, and hopefully by the time I get there in March, D-Doc, I'll be able to check out the bathroom all refreshed and new. For everybody who's listening, maybe for the first time or whatever, most of us are in Indianapolis. D-Doc's out in the Philly area, but I've already reached out to him about maybe heading out there and visiting coming in March. So I'll get to see the bathroom. Hopefully you'll have it done by then, right? It's January. We'll have it done by March. Okay.
I see Brent's in here, so I'm going to rearrange everybody on the screen. Don't mind me.
No worries. Hey, while Brent's warming up, we'll go to my cousin, Alfie. Alfie, how are you, brother?
Doing good. Trying to survive this crazy weather we're having right now. It was an adventurous drive home. I had to work late, so all that fog in the dark. But just happy to be here, ready to talk some Star Wars.
Fog is
among
terrible.
Other things.
And other things. Fog is terrible right now in Indiana, so be careful out there on the roadways, everybody. The last one of our main crew just popped in here, our good friend Brent, who's working on his Star Wars Legions. Geonosian right there, it looks like. Brent, how are you, sir?
Is that Poggle the Lesser?
That is Poggle the Lesser. I figured you would pull that one out of your pocket. So this one is Sung Fak.
Sun Fak, yeah. Sorry,
excuse me.
It's that face.
Right. I mean, it's not like flicking your bick, but and then this is the it's like the big weapon guy, heavy weapon guy. Anyway, these have been the death of me for the last week. They were released. And then also I can't because we have somebody here. Here is another one that I have painted up as well.
Very nice.
I had to pull that out.
For our YouTube fans who are watching right now, Brent was showing the famous Asajj Ventress, and we might as well just get to it. We were lucky enough; it just worked out timing wise with everything going on. That Miss Nika Futterman, who plays the voice on Clone Wars and now Bad Batch and other things, the Clone Wars movie, all that stuff. Of Asajj Ventress and so many other voices. Nika, thank you. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm great. Because we don't have weather in Los Angeles, so I don't have to deal with all that stuff that you guys have. All that drama. We've had a little bit of rain, which is kind of nice. But besides that, there's no weather here. It's just sunny.
Don't you get the winds? Don't the winds mess with you? The Santa Anita or the Santa Ana?
Kinda, but not really. That's just sort of like, the trees are, and where I live there are lots of trees, so yeah, but nothing to worry about.
It's what's that song? It never rains in Southern California.
Oh, I was hoping we were getting a song tonight.
And here we are. We got a song already.
Mark that one off my bingo card.
So we've also gone from, just to give you the extremes, we went from about 1 degrees Fahrenheit on last Monday to now thick fog where you can't see past a quarter mile this Thursday. So we've had a roller coaster of the weather.
Yeah, it's been like what, a 60-degree temperature
Basically.
change.
Yeah.
Eeky.
So Miss Nika, I'm gonna throw a curveball to start us off here before we get into any Star Wars talk. I was blown away. I was talking to Steve Glosson, which, by the way, happy birthday today to Mr. Steve Glosson. He runs a podcast called Geek Out Loud, and he's just a great guy. But he's celebrating his birthday today. Alfie, he's the same age as you. So
Really?
yeah, but we were talking about it,
So
and
mid-30s then.
yeah, mid-30s. And so I said, "Hey, Nika Futterman is going to be on Rule the Galaxy," and his first comment was, "You mean the Give It to Me Baby Girl from the Offspring song, Pretty Fly for a White Guy?" And I said, "What? I forgot. How did you get into that role? What was that all about to get that part of that song?"
Isn't that people always ask me that. It was a while ago. It was back when I was young girl. and I always try to remember exactly how that came about, because at that time I was definitely sort of like more in the music scene and trying to be a rock star and all that kind of stuff. So I was trying to remember if it was just through like a friend of a friend of a friend. I know it was just somebody, whoever it was, said to me, "Oh, my friends are doing this song and I think you should do the background for the song." And they were like, "Come and just hang out with us in the studio." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And I went and had a great time with these dudes, and it was really fun. They're like, "You can do," because I had moved from New York, and it was like at the time I was doing like lots of, Rosie Perez became famous for being sort of like the New York Puerto Rican chick, but I was like, that's everybody I grew up with, so everybody sounds like that. They're like, "We kind of want a little something like that." I was like, "Yeah, I can do that for you." And I had no idea who they were. I wasn't enough, like I didn't even know who they were. I didn't even know who the band was. And
Wow.
it turned out to be a song that people remember. Mhm.
My
But it,
kids, my kids love that song. So
yeah, it was crazy. Like I just thought it was so funny, because I was like, this is crazy that people are like, "What?" Because they were a pretty huge band, and the song, as
Oh,
as
yeah.
the youngsters say, it went viral. If there was, and so I was like, yeah, this is funny. So it was pretty funny that I just hung out with these guys. It was like late into the night. We were just having fun in the studio, and
Wow.
it was super chill, and they were really nice. And yeah, so it was basically, I just sort of like, someone just said to me, "Yeah, I think you'd be good doing this," and basically that's what happened, which is like a lot of my life. I just seem to
Um,
fuck this shit. Oh,
you're good. You're good. There's
Good.
there's no FCC stuff here. You're good.
Oh,
So
is it After Dark? Is it an After
it's
Dark episode?
an After Dark episode. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
okay.
so before I get to the other hosts, I popped this up here. Kids Incorporated, Michael Nip, one of our listeners, you did some Kids Incorporated work?
Did I?
I don't know. That's what he said. So I will Michael, send us more info.
Elaborate.
Yeah, let us
Like
know
I
what
said, so, pre-show, it's like, I hope I can answer some questions, because I've had a long career, and it's like people ask me questions. They're like, remember when you did blah 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 blah, and I'm like, let's see. There's many times I have to go look it up myself, because I have no idea, and I never watch anything I do.
Really?
Never. So I actually literally have to go look it up and go. And sometimes I'll be like, "Oh, that was pretty good," and other times I'm like, "Ooh, gee."
Is that because you don't want to? Like, are you the type that when you hear your voice, you have like the fingernails on chalkboards moment, or like why do you selectively avoid it? Why do you not check out what you do?
That's a really good question, because I should have a good answer for this. But I think it has something to do with the reason why I got into voiceover in the first place, which is like, it's not like regular actors. You don't have to, like, you can do have a career and nobody knows who you are. You can be a regular person, and you can like sort of be free of the ego stuff. And I think that I think always because I originally, when I started off my career, I was wanting to be an on-camera actor person, and I think what I loved about voiceover is that like I could do it and I could leave and be a regular person, and I don't really, as the reason why I haven't done so many of like these things, or why I'm usually hiding under a rock, is because I don't really love talking about myself, or I don't really love, you know what I mean? I like, I feel really weird when it comes to like being like, hey, I am blah, 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 blah. So I think even when I was a kid, when I would do plays in school, I would like jet out the back doors instead of going up and getting all the accolades from everybody, or the booze, whatever they were going to be. I was just like, I don't want to know if it's good or bad. And I just have been that way my whole entire life.
Go ahead, Brent.
Going to like the high school days and getting into acting, because you said you wanted to be an onstage actor, and I did watch some other stuff.
Yeah.
And have voices always been a part? Like, did you enjoy taking on random crazy characters as you were doing it? And then I do have another question for you too, follows up that. So what was it about acting? What was it about acting that you enjoyed, like high school days, younger days, that made you want to go that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think I thought originally, like when I was younger, I thought the trajectory of my life was going to be, like I wanted to do Saturday Night Live, Mad TV. I thought because I was always doing character stuff, but I had no idea that voiceover existed. Like I didn't know people did that for a living. I was like, whoa, when it sort of, I fell into it. I was like, whoa, this is great, man.
So I also do something in my high school. So I'm an educator, so I'm in schools all the time. So I coach speech, or forensics.
Yeah.
Which, do you know of forensics in speech, or have you it's the best way for me to explain it is it's competitive acting. So you take a monologue, you take a piece, and then it's not unheard of for a kid to take on 6 or 7 different voices within, and character like mannerisms, and take over, like embody 3 or 4 different people to try to portray it. So it's just like people who are doing the reading, like the auto, like if you listen to Audible people and people that do like that kind of narration. So it is basically character acting. It is like voiceover work, but it's like a way to take the words and make them alive.
That's so cool. They didn't have that.
So you didn't know anything about that? Okay. I was just curious because
about that. That's really cool.
Right. So it's a way for people who are coming up with voices and creative to try to come up with those in high school. So I just didn't know if you had anything connected to it.
No, I had nothing to connect to it. And I love that, because I think part of what makes a lot of kids scared to get into any kind of, to head their life in that direction is because they don't feel secure enough in doing it, or maybe their family said, no, don't do that, you need to go get a regular job or whatever. If a lot of kids had that opportunity that they have now to work on their skills in that way, I mean, I think that's incredible. I just was always naturally a freak, and so like I was like, even when people weren't paying me, I was like, I was just imitating people anyway, so I just couldn't help myself. So when I was in school, it was kind of like, I was one of those lucky people that from the time I was little, I knew what I wanted to do in my life. I knew I wanted to be a performer. I just wasn't, I knew also at the same time that I had this like weird shyness, which I think a lot of performers do. You meet them in real life and they're like, not exactly. I mean, I love the one-on-one with people. I love humans, but I just mean, when you see someone, or imagine that all performers are going to be like larger than life when you meet them. A lot of times they're like super shy, or so anyway.
No, you're good. D-Doc, Alfie, I'll let one of you guys go next, or I'll monopolize and ask 100 questions. Go ahead, guys.
Alfie, do you got one cooked up, ready to go?
No, I wanted to hear Brent's follow-up question.
So that
I
was
thought
the
that
high school was using the
forensics.
forensics was kind of the follow-up question.
Okay.
But even with that, so like going into voices, I've always been fascinated because we've talked to a couple of voiceover actors, Mark Thompson, and then we also had Jonathan Davis, who they've done the Audible books and stuff like that. What is your process? So somebody comes at you with a character, like you're
Yeah.
sitting down, you probably have a character right now. Like, what is your process to finding the voice? Because we're all Star Wars people, and I think everybody in here will hear your Asajj voice and like know, like, so how did you come up with the voice for her or any character? Like, what is your process?
Well, I guess every character is different, but I do have to say this, that I don't really have a process. I would say that something magical comes from the universe. And just
I believe
I'm
it.
like,
Like, I get it.
tell me what it is, universe. And then all of a sudden it's like, so, but what happens is, like, usually what happens is when you are auditioning for a part, sometimes you'll just get sides, the script, a piece of the script, and they'll give you a description of the character. Sometimes it's super descriptive. Sometimes it's hardly descriptive. It's like, older, sophisticated woman, or, like
Yellow Tweety Bird.
yeah, right, exactly. But sometimes they'll give you a picture. Sometimes they don't. And sometimes, like weirdly, like where you get the most descriptive stuff is in video games. It's like people who create video games come up with this whole, universe. And then every character that they come up with in their mind, I mean, it's like uber geekdom, it's like all fleshed out. And so a lot of times I find, like with video games, I could come up with voices based on like the, just the everything that they give to you when they describe it. I don't like to go and, well, like with Asajj, I mean, there was just something, I can't even remember. I don't even remember if I got a picture. I never saw the 3-minute shorts. I never saw anything. I had no idea about this character. So I thought I was just creating her completely from nothing, which is what I have done with most of my characters, unless I'm repeating something like a Catwoman or blah, blah, blah. In which case, I still don't like to listen to what other people have done. But with Asajj, I of course, obviously in the Star Wars, like Dave Filoni and everything, he had everything like fleshed out in his, head, but still wasn't a lot of stuff that had kind of been created about her yet. So I got to kind of like, and then they, as time went on, we kind of like made her story more intricate and blah, blah, blah. But I don't know, something happened to me with her where I just felt like she was this like badass, but she had this, this, she was both street savvy, but also sophisticated in her way, and, when she started off, it's like, obviously the stuff that could just be purely evil. And then I don't know why I just gave her, this sort of like voice that seemed to be like, it can be evil. I don't know. Just something happened in that way, and then
I think I was gonna say, I think I'll speak to everybody that I think that we rather enjoy the rasp, and
That's very nice.
It's a pleasing sound for some of us.
It's a very cool voice, but I think the witty, repartee and the banter that she does with that evil voice, I think is one of the coolest things. I think, James Arnold Taylor did such a great job with Obi-Wan Kenobi, but it was really working well when he would play those back and forth to you, and you would come back with those snippy comments in that voice. I think that made the character. The voice made the character, I would say.
It's so, I mean, James is so incredible. And I think that, there's like, in many ways, I felt like just coming from the era of stuff that we came from, James and I, like there was still this sort of like old school, like like old movie style, like old bad guy, old, and also mixed with sort of like because I think Star Wars came up that way. They were all they used so many English actors and so many, and so there's this like sophistication in a way that brings the whole unit, like the universe is about so many different places and spaces. So the voices have so much history, and they could be geographically from anywhere. And so, and then she comes from this sort of like witchy background, you know what I mean? Um, with all of her sisters and the mother, Townsend, so so it just sort of like evolved into that kind of fun thing. And also, in the beginning, it was sort of like she was just in a way, more bad guy. So it just seemed like I guess maybe in the Star Wars universe, just that a lot of the bad guys had this sort of like very, almost Shakespearean vibration. And maybe that's what, happened, where now it's funny, in this more modern era of Star Wars, there's so much more just like people who just talk normally, or like,
I think you're right on that. That's something that we haven't really discussed as a group here, guys, is Star Wars from the prequels in the original trilogy and that era had a different tenor to the voices for the most part.
No, it was British. Like, it was
Yeah.
legit. So when you go to Galaxy's Edge, like they all have this like British accent. When you get on, like there's like this hint of a British accent.
Well,
Right.
what sounds better? A guy just saying "I hate the sand," or a guy saying "I hate the sand"? Like like when he's very passionate about it. It's like it makes it much better.
You know what I mean? It's like
Well
just
done,
a bit
Tina.
of that, but yeah,
That's crazy.
it's just funny how things evolve, and just depending on what's happening in the entertainment world, sometimes things become a little more street or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I'm going to monopolize this because I have one more follow-up to that follow-up to all those questions. But so we talked about the Ventress and creating the Ventress.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, there's been a time away from Ventress. So
Yeah.
and it sounds like, because you'll just jump into voices all over the place, which is like they just kind of live in you, right? They just kind of come out, they live in you.
Yeah.
How hard is it to jump back in when you've had such a break? Because you've created this voice, you haven't done this voice. Now you're gonna have to do this voice again. And I spoiler alert to anybody that's watched trailers, the voice is going to be used again real soon.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm not allowed to give away that much, but
I didn't want you to give any. I didn't
No,
want you
no,
to give
no.
any.
I know you guys are.
Okay. That wasn't the point. Was like, if you heard it, you heard the voice.
I want to say, I'll put it this way. Let's see if I could. Let me just say that I can explain it this way. Let's just say that this is just an appetizer.
Oh,
Well, I like the sound of that.
Seriously?
wow.
Let's say that there could be an entree and a dessert.
Ooh, nice.
Do not get yourself in trouble, but keep going.
But the point.
Just, I was as surprised as everybody else. I was like, yeah, baby, but I didn't know what would come of this, and so it's just a little appetizer.
So
That sounds
the point of the
fantastic.
question wasn't to try to get that out of you, which is thank you. But it was more just like, how do you go back into the voice? Like, you've obviously had time. Like, how do you?
And since I don't ever, like I said, watch anything I do, I was
Right.
like, whoa, I gotta remember who this lady is. Now the whole thing is that when we were, doing Clone Wars, and before, everything went to poo, and we didn't even finish her story situation, and she didn't come back for the new Disney situation, then she had kind of started to evolve into this different person.
Mm-hmm.
So that was also the thing. Like, I had to pretend like there was all this time and she was this new person, and it almost like she almost like evolved even in the way that she speaks. So, now she's like this, bounty hunter chick, that was what she was, and so she's moving into a new realm. So I just had to sort of remember. I should have gone back and watched. I actually, I should watch. I should watch
It's good stuff.
It is.
I should watch it all, and I should also do it just because, so I can answer questions when people ask me.
Hey,
Because-
with that growth, and you were talking about that growth development, one of my favorite books that has come out to go along with this was the Dark Disciple book, which was about Asajj Ventress and Quinlan Voss.
yeah.
Did you ever read that book, or did anybody ever approach you and say, "Hey, do you want to do the voice for this book?"
Well, I've done in the last year or something. I don't think we actually did no, I don't think anyone asked me about that. I did some other stuff for the book world
Okay.
in Asajj land, and but lots of people asked me if I read the book. Lots of people asked me, and then people basically just told me what happened in the book, and so I should have read it anyway because I heard it's amazing. But
It
I
is.
also was really sad because she died, so I thought, damn, that's the end of it. It's over.
Yeah, it's
But
like, did you hear you died in this book? It's like, what?
But does anyone really ever truly die?
Oh, please.
Well,
no.
you know what, Nika? My son, before Alfie, you'll be next 1 second. My son does a lot of impersonations. He's
Yeah.
he's an online comedian. He impersonates a lot of famous people, and it's funny because 3 or 4 of the famous people that he's been known to do have
Yeah.
either retired or quit their jobs, so like they're not in the limelight anymore. So he comes to me and he's like, "Dang, I can't do that voice anymore because nobody's talking about them, right? Or they're old school." So I can see if you were told that Asajj died in a book, you're like, well, there goes revenue in the future for me, right? I mean, there's a job. So
Well, it's not even it. I mean, obviously, we all like work for money. I wouldn't say. I would say that being in the Star Wars world is way more about being part of the world than it is about making me rich. Let's put it that way. So
Sure.
I never really thought like, oh, there goes my life and career or thing. It was more like, I hope I'm part of this, group of incredible people that are so much fun to work with and who, just the whole world. I mean, obviously, you guys are podcasts. Star Wars. Come on, duh. Like, being a part of something that's so special and is part of history,
Mhm.
it's like it's like, boy, did I score. So that's the part that made me sad. So what I did was I went to bed every night and I looked up at the universe and I went like this and I said, pretty please with sugar on top, bring me back somehow. I know she might be dead, but is she really? And it worked.
I
It
love it.
worked. It worked.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Alfie, up to you. Up to you.
Okay, going back to the Dark Disciple book,
Yeah.
I know you said you didn't read it, but I've read in a few places that before Clone Wars was canceled, that was going to become part of her story arc. Was there any truth to that, or was anything ever done?
It might be true, and I think that sort of in many ways going forward, they're kind of they like to incorporate all of it.
Mhm.
But the truth is that in this world, they're so secretive about everything that even if you're a part of it, like when I'm working on something, I'll get the script like right before I do it. They don't want anything out. They don't want anyone to know. So I think that I've heard, we get we kind of hear things after they might have happened. So I don't know if that's true. All I know is in my current state of dealing with those, let's say, in this world, they have talked about how they are trying to utilize
That's
stuff.
that's
One-
absolutely awesome. We have, as you can, DDoc, I'll cut, and then you can go after this. Michael Knapp, as you see, he's been chiming in a lot, and we love Michael. He's a great part of our show. His question to you is: can Nika share any funny Dave Filoni moments during recording sessions from the Clone Wars?
Oh
Do you
gosh.
remember any stories from Filoni?
Well, I mean, funny stories. Like Dave is just, I mean, I can't think of specific stories, but I can tell you what is so amazing about Dave is that he's like all of us. Like he's just a big
Mm-hmm.
gangster. Like this is his life and his passion, and it was like he dreamed it and it happened. He's a genius guy who thinks in this world and has always since he was young. And he's just funny in that way because he's not like, some people. I've been in the Hollywood world for, a really long time. And, I've worked on a lot of shows, and people that are, in the directors who become really successful, they, sometimes they kind of change, as they get,
Mm-hmm.
and as long as I've known Dave, and he reminded me recently, it's been, like 20 years or something. Um, he's the same dude. So what's funny about him is that he spends much of sessions. Well, first of all, anytime you do a scene, he spends like an hour describing what's going on, and he's just like, "Okay, I get it, man. I get it. Yeah, I got it. I got it." And he's like, "Well, so then, like, so that gets pretty funny because and then he goes off on some tangent. So that's every single time. But what I find really funny and cute and sweet about him is that he is very obsessed with Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about Godzilla a lot and about his Godzilla collection and his action figures and all the things that he collects. And he also plays Pokemon.
So
Really?
he's one of us, is what you're telling me.
Yeah,
Like, he's legit one of the guys on the podcast.
He's legit. And I think it's very funny and very cute. And I know those aren't specific stories, but it's just like,
no.
look, most of the time when I do a voiceover session, and I can get like an episode done in, let's say, 10 minutes. A lot of times I record by myself, but let's just say I'm with a whole cast or something. Maybe we'll get an episode done in like 40 minutes. But with Dave, it's like 4 hours. He's like, "Oh, you see new Godzilla?" And then he'll talk about that. So that's what's funny about Dave, is that he's a pure, true geek brother.
Well, we're going to go to D-Doc next, but before we do, just remind yourself that I'm a big Pittsburgh fan. Filoni's a big Pittsburgh fan.
Yep.
You tell him next time you talk to him, he's more than welcome on here. We'll have him on anytime he wants. So, D-Doc, it's up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I just actually thought of a different question while you were talking. I know that from seeing some stuff from people who do audiobooks and voiceovers, things changed during COVID where people were recording at home as opposed to in studio. Are you going like, has any of that stuff changed as things have kind of gotten back to normal? Are you still going to studio and being around like other people in the cast, or like how, like if you're recording for Asajj, are you there with other voice actors at the same time? Is it kind of a group effort, or like individually? Like,
Well, I would say for the most part, since COVID, you record in your own studio. So everybody kind of, if you wanted to stay working, you had to make sure you had a studio set up. You're in my studio.
nice.
I moved all my equipment away, but my studio. Sure. But just as I was saying, funny Dave Filoni is because he believes, he enjoys, which I enjoy too, the cast working together. You get better performances, you get the vibe, you get to love each other. And so like he flies down from,
That's awesome.
up north, and I love that. I just think also, he just likes people to connect. You know, he likes the actors to connect, and I think he thinks in a very, even before he was running the show, yay, he's running the show now. Before he was doing on camera, you know, when he started off, he really is into the visual and the physical and the, you know, he really lives the world. So with him, you know, he likes to do that. And then other shows of mine, pretty much, if like a lot of the stuff I do for Disney, they've never recorded people together because it's very hard to schedule a lot of people. So I always record that by myself. But they, as soon as they could, started asking if we would, you know, go back into the studio, just because it makes it easier with the levels and everything and blah, blah, blah. So for a lot of my Disney stuff, I go into the studio, but I record by myself. And then things like Nickelodeon, we still record at home, but I'll record, like, do the show Loud House and record the whole cast together, but we do it over Zoom.
Cool.
Oh,
But we all are in our own spaces and places.
Love it.
so I will say this. We'll come back to some massage here in a minute because we've been hitting that pretty hard. But we know you have a very colorful career as well as some other things you do outside of all this. So I'm going to give the group some time to throw some stuff at you and see if any of it sticks. D-Doc, I'll let you stick with the one I know you're going to ask here in a minute about our good friend Hey Arnold. But you know what? I look and I see the Loud House, and I've seen the ads for it, and I've seen promotions, and occasionally flip by it on the channels. You've done 130 plus episodes of the Loud House. Is that crazy to think about that?
Yeah, it's so crazy because right now we're recording our 8th season.
Dear gosh.
And I was like, and you know, everything's always in competition with SpongeBob, you know. It's always been Nickelodeon's #1 show. And we finally, I think there was like a moment in which we were #1 over it was the first time anything had like broken that level of, like, you know, success. And so now I think we're #2. And so they keep, you know, giving us seasons, and I'm like, yeah. That makes me so happy. Yeah. So and that's like a completely, you know, that what's fun about that is, like, you know, I play this teenage chick. She's really cool. She's a singer, and you know, they write cool songs for her, and she's
That's
really
awesome.
nice. And so she's totally different than Asajj or other, you know, stuff that I play. So I love her. Love her.
That's awesome. Alfie, Brent, or D-Doc. Brent, go ahead.
Yeah, so a couple things. So a friend of mine who's big into anime,
Yeah.
who just popped into the chat, the boy
yeah.
and the heron,
Oh,
from Studio Ghibli.
yeah.
I'm probably destroying all of that, but he's a huge friend of mine and was just curious. Was that in the studio with other people? Was that kind of just one of those one-offs you got reached out to? Because he said
Yeah.
it's well received within the anime world, which
Yeah.
I'm sure it is. That's not part of my world. So
Matt,
yeah.
I had no idea. They asked me to come, and they're like, "Hey, we're doing this, you know, film," and you know, they told me whose film it was, and they're like, "This could be his last film, and do you want to be part of history?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they were like, "You know, just a small part." And what do you think? I think he just basically played this, you know, funny. There's this group of funny old ladies, and I played one of them, and it was small, and you know, was just a short, sweet session. And they're like, "All right, you're part of this." And then all of a sudden it comes out, and people are like, "Hey!" And I was like, "Whoa!" People actually sit and look at who's in the movie after.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
because I got so many texts going, "Oh," you know. And of course, it's another thing where I just got invited to be part of, like, you know, history. And I just, every single part that I go and do, it doesn't matter to me what, who, how. I just give it my 100%, and I'm always in gratitude and thankful for my next gig. And that was another one. But you know, when you find out who you're working for and the beauty of what, you know, the filmmaker does, then I mean, I was like, "Oh, that's really nice that they asked me." So, You know,
That's awesome.
Was that from your home studio, or did you go?
no,
Did you
that I
fly-
went. That I went. I did in studio. Yeah.
So you went
A lot
to
of
studio
most people with movies. With movies, they like to do it. Usually, you're on a sound stage.
do you prefer solo in your booth, or do you prefer a group in an ensemble?
I like a group and an ensemble. I really enjoy working with other people. I just think I think it makes everybody better when you're working off of each other. But I'm so used to doing it by myself that like it doesn't matter to me. It's like I love it no matter what. So, but if someone gave me a choice, I'm always the one who's like, yeah, man, I'll go into the studio, especially if it's like with a bunch of people.
Well, I tell you what, we're usually an all guys show, and I had about 5 really just crude bad jokes made up from all those wonderful things you just said. So I'm gonna cut my time short because I'm an idiot and I always have just stupid things in my head. But we'll go on to D-Doc or Alfie, whichever one.
And
Who
I grew
has
up
a
with
question?
all dudes, can you tell? So
You grew up with all dudes?
yeah, and I'm a twin. I have a twin brother, and
Oh my
Oh,
gosh!
cool.
so I'm used to the cruder the better, and
That's good. That's good.
and I'm an old lady, so I come from the back in the day when you could say whatever you wanted and no one.
Well, then you fit perfect with our show because we usually call it After Dark because the next thing, here comes the curse words and everything else. But
I'm holding it all back because I'm like, where's my left? Oh,
Let
No
it
worries.
go. Let it
D-Doc,
go.
do you have a question on one of your favorite shows growing up?
Well, I do, but I actually thought of another one, and it kind of
Okay.
relates back to Star Wars universe, but it just came across. Have you seen the hype online about your character returning, and like how does that feel? Because like if you go in the comments on the trailer on Instagram, if you go on
It's
Twitter,
crazy.
on anything, it's all about Asajj being back. Like, have you seen the hype online? Like, because it's pretty awesome.
Since I'm like circa 1974 and hardly ever go online and have no like social media presence or anything, which people keep reminding me, I'm like, you need followers. I'm like, yeah. And I rarely check my stuff, and I offend many people because they're like, I've been trying to reach you, and I'm like, sorry. The answer is a little bit, only because I've been getting texts from people like sending me articles. She's back, and I'm like, this is cool. People care. I didn't know they cared that much, but they do, and I love that. I love it. And so, and I'm like, everybody over at Lucas, are you seeing these things?
We're all waiting for the Asajj movie, the Asajj TV show, the Asajj more toys. Yeah.
Whatever pop, what do they call them? The
Funko
Pops.
Pop. Like what?
Don't they? They have to have it. They have to have it.
Yeah, I have an Asajj Ventress Funko Pop.
Okay.
Alfie's got it. Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, you must have had it made.
No.
No,
And
I
he's
think
got
there was one for the Clone Wars, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it wasn't a Funko Pop then. It was that other thing. It wasn't a Funko Pop.
there's a bobblehead or something like that.
That's like a bobblehead thing, but it wasn't a Funko Pop. Like the,
Alfie's about to go and do his bins.
He is.
He has sent us.
They're looking through my pictures here.
He's
I mean,
there was
dive into
one
the
thing that
archives.
was made, but it wasn't a Funko Pop because
Was
trust.
it the Mighty Mugs?
Yes,
Okay.
I think I have one. With,
Nika, after this, I think Alfie and then Brent with his
oh no, wait,
Legion.
she's got it as well.
Okay.
I was gonna say, if they have a Legion figure, if they have an 1.5-inch size figure, this is cool that she's grabbing her Funko Pop. I think
yeah.
that's what she's grabbing. Or
this
sorry,
Grabbing a-
the
Yeah.
Mighty Max.
right?
Yeah,
That's
that's the
awesome.
one.
See, that's not a Funko Pop, yo.
I thought they were made by Funko, though. So, yeah, you're
Oh, are
right.
they Mighty Mugs?
That
I was like, yo, where my Funko Pop?
you know what you can make on the black market with that, Nika? The people will buy that thing up.
Well, I'm going. Like I said, I'm finally coming out from under a rock, and I've been doing an occasional, what do they call them?
Convention.
Convention.
And I'm like, what do you call it? What do you call those things? A convention. So I'm going to Kansas City in March.
Okay.
Awesome.
I'm gonna go do that, and so maybe one of these days, a Funko Pop will come out, and I'll get to juggle Asajj Funko Pops for people. There is no Funko Pop, which is just ridiculous. But I have her Black Series figure and need it autographed. Yeah, baby.
We'll get your home address so we can all send our things and beg you to sign them for us. How's that?
Yeah, there you go.
We'll talk after the show. So
So D-Doc, are you gonna ask about your favorite character from growing up? Because I mean, you watched it. You said after school all the time.
Well, no, I said when I saw that she was on Hey Arnold, I was just like, I grew up on that, and and that's what's so cool about voice actors, like Nika was saying earlier. It's like I feel like I didn't start personally looking into voice actors until I started to watch the Clone Wars, and then be like, oh wait, all these people have been in all of these things that have been a part of my life for all these years, and it's really cool. That's why, like, every time I see an animated show or animated movie, which, like, when I saw you do Cuckoo Loca, like I'm like my daughters have that on all the time, like. I can tell them I talked to her herself. It's amazing.
Yeah, you could just bring them in, and I could be like, "Hey, what's up?"
Exactly.
That was a funny. That's always one of my favorite stories about her voice, right? Because she's this little, yellow, cute little Disney thing, and I got to create that voice because they originally, when you're talking about creating characters, they wanted the cute Disney sound because they're like, oh, we're gonna, introduce this new character into the Mickey Mouse world, and she's this really cute little yellow bird with little big eyelashes and a big pink bow. And I was like, what happens if I made it sound like Joe Pesci?
I'm telling you, the first time I remember the first time I was sitting with my daughter, and it was I think it was Minnie's Bow Tunes or whatever.
Yeah.
I throw that on and I see Cuckoo Loca come out. I'm like, oh, there's a little bird in this show. And then I heard her talk, and I'm just like, oh, that's awesome. It's great.
Well,
and
I will follow up with, because you were Olga Pataki, not Helga Pataki, and
the annoying one. I was the annoying one.
Were you Helga or Olga, the older sister or the younger sister?
I was the sister. Not the mean chick is Helga, right? And she was
so
Olga was very put together from what I remember. It was like
but
she was
Olga had the great crying scenes, though. She had some great crying scenes in there.
And she talked like that, and she was very annoying, and her sister was so annoyed by her. And she would just go, she was like the perfect one, That was such a great show. Because talk about working with a cast together, like Helga's family, we were just like we just did the craziest things, like we just pretended like the mom and dad, they were both, like drinkers, and and it was Kat Susie was do you guys know Kat Susie is? Anyway, since you guys are in the Star Wars, she was more in, like the but you know who Maurice LaMarche is? Do you?
I don't.
No.
These guys are like the big old school voiceover people. But anyway, when I started working with them, we just used to have so much fun, because that was back in the day where you could just push it to the limits. There wasn't a whole lot of animated, funny adult stuff. So we just used to, kind of have fun in the kids world, but you can't really go that edgy, but we did it behind the scenes,
Yeah, that's what I was telling my kids, like, about the podcast tonight and some of the voices you do, and they're just like, what's Hey Arnold? And I'm just like, we'll figure that out. We'll watch.
It cuts to the core.
They're like, is that okay for us? They're like 6 and 5. They're like, is that okay for us? And I'm like, yeah, it probably is. It'll be good for you. Let's watch it.
You should watch Loud House. They should watch Loud House.
Yeah.
Loud House is like, I feel like that I was a part of these two iconic shows because what was so amazing about Hey Arnold is that it wasn't some like silly kid show where, it was like just dumb stuff. It was like real heartfelt life stuff. And I feel like Loud House is that way too. It's real. It's like beautifully done, but the stories are not kiddie like, you know what I mean? But they're great for young, like Loud House is like kids, 5 to 12, and older. But anyway, the scripts are great. It's old school animation.
That's awesome.
Speaking of all of these characters, because if you go on IMDb, you're gonna have a laundry list. I think any '90s cartoon that this generation or like I would say the millennial generation grew up with, I feel like your name is attached to. It was crazy. But is there one specific character that you love playing the most? Like you said, Coco Loca, you enjoyed creating that voice because it was so anti what they were looking for. Is there anything that like you go back and you hope that you can pull back out again? Or your favorite character that you
Well, I did. I mean, since you don't know a lot of voiceover people, but I do know D. Baker.
Oh,
D. Bradley Baker. I know you know him.
Yes, we would know that.
Most definitely.
One of the first shows I ever did was a show called Michael and Og. It was me and Dee and Nancy Cartwright.
Okay.
And what has always stayed close to my heart, Klasky Chupo, who did Rugrats, created the show, and it was so genius. The show. It's about this girl. Her name was Mike, and she moved from New York City and got stuck on this deserted island with this other. Her name's Mike, and Lou and Og, and Dee played Og, and Nancy played Lou, and it was just such a delightful, old school, smart, awesome story about this kid who's out of her element. And it's always stayed like one of the truest things in my heart. This little girl from New York City who gets stuck on a deserted island. And I think she is one of the, even though like, it was just fun to be able to like bring my New York into a show. And I want to, but like in terms of people always ask me who my favorite character. I mean, like, how do you pick your favorite child? How do you pick?
Easy.
You know what I mean?
Did you say pretty easy?
We said pretty easy.
Yeah, I know it is.
The one that plays with your Star Wars toys, right,
Yeah,
Alfie?
That's the one who's quiet and stays in his room all day. That's my favorite one.
One is just very, very quiet. Yeah, but like of course, of course, like when you get to play someone like Asajj, it's like she's iconic and incredible, and people love her. And so of course I want to say, of course she's one of my favorites. And like I said, Loud House, I love this character on Loud House, Luna Loud, because what I love about her is she's all love. She's pure love. And she puts out good stuff into the universe, and she gets to sing. So I love her. So those are a few, but I have to say there's been rarely somebody that I played that I left and went, I hate her, right? Or I hate him, because I play a lot of boys too. Lots of boys, lots of little boys. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Alfie, how about you? Throw
Okay,
some our way.
I've been waiting on this one for a while, so let me see if I can remember, not mess it up. In looking through your list here, I see a lot of singing credits. So is there any difference in approaching a role when you have to sing rather than just do voice acting? Like, do you have to prepare any differently, or is it just, like Mr. Rogers putting on another pair of shoes?
Well, I would say when I was younger, it was a lot less scary. Now I'm like, I don't sing as much, and I can't sing as well as I used to. I don't have the stamina or the range that I used to. So I would say I definitely love doing it, but it also scares me more than other things, other roles that I play. But I also really look forward to it. It is, a lot of the characters I play where I sing now, like when Coco Loca sings, right? She can't really sing. She has a great voice, but she gets to sing, so it's kind of fun. I don't have to worry. But when I have to sing as like Luna, she's supposed to have this, great voice, or she's a rocker, but she, so I would say that it's more nerve inducing, but when you're a performer, you got to come with it, baby. You got to so it takes more pre-work. But this is the crazy thing. when they give you a song or whatever, it's not like they give you a long time, or back in the day, you go work in the studio with a creator and you get it to sound really good. They'll just throw you a song now and tell you to learn it in 2 days. And then you have to sing it in your own studio against a track. And you're like, I don't know if that makes any sense. You know, it's like, you're like, oh, last time I had a session, and it was people I'd never worked with before, and they wrote this song, and it was completely out of my vocal range. I was, needless to say, I was mortified. I was like, oh man, did I screw that up? So it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this, you can still totally screw things up and totally be embarrassed. For all of you youngsters out there who think like, everybody has those moments. Doesn't matter how long you've been doing whatever you do.
Agreed. Brent, I think you had one lined up for us about some outside things outside of Star Wars.
I've been waiting because I wanted to talk voice acting, but there is one little thing that shows up on your website. I watched a video, and I would be remiss to bring it up as well. Poker?
Like, what is the question?
Oh,
poker?
Yeah. I would say it's my dirty little secret, but it's not a secret at all.
So this is like your guilty pleasure. That is like the better.
I would say. So I basically started playing poker about 20 years ago. And it was another one of those things I sort of fell into, and I was like, oh my God, I've fallen in love. And this was like pre-family, pre-everything, and I was, my career was going strong, and a friend of mine said to me, hey, you want to go to Hustler Casino and put your stuff to the test? And I was like, hell yeah. And that was the beginning of it. I fell in love with poker. And then when I had my midlife crisis, I was thinking, gosh, what else do I want to do with my life where I can use my brain more? And And I was like, all I could think of is I want to be a professional poker player. So I've been playing a lot. I mean, so like I was already putting in the hours, but then I all of a sudden got into my head, I want to be a professional poker player. So I started really putting in the hours, and now it's been a long time, and I would say, more hours playing poker than I do. I wouldn't say I would say. I would say I would definitely say that I spend more hours at the poker table than I do doing voiceover, because voiceover can be a quick endeavor, no more than 4 hours in a session. But
we got a question there on the poker side of things.
You ever play poker with Michael Cera or Toby Maguire? No. They mostly play home games, and with the big baller, very wealthy actor types who like to hand each other hundreds of thousands of dollars. I play, weirdly, I mean, I have a place in Vegas now because poker changed the trajectory of my life. So I have a place, house in Vegas now. So I play in Vegas and I play in LA, but I always play in casinos. In LA, casinos are not casinos like, they don't have slots and all that kind of stuff. They're just card rooms. So I mostly play at this place called Commerce Casino. I was actually there today. Now my life is kind of busy, so I can't play my true passion, which are poker tournaments. And that's what I really love doing. So I go in the summer for like a month. I'm in Vegas for the World Series of Poker, which is like a month and a half. Yeah. And I stay there and I play lots of events. And then throughout the whole year, I go back and forth between LA and Vegas and play poker tournaments. But now I've just sort of been busy with my life, and I also am a mother. I'm obviously I'm a degenerate type of mother. So, but now my kid it really needs me. So I can't. So kids get in the way, right?
Are you see? Because I play when I play, and if I ever get a chip lead, I became a chip bully. are like, what is like your play style? Like, I try to bully people out of pots and try to overbet. Like, do you have a play style or do you change it up? Like, what is like?
It's funny that you should say that, because I was thinking about this the other day. So much of poker is about like how people perceive you, right? And I've come to find out after all these many years, because I know lots of people in the poker world, because we've all been have the degeneratitis thing. And so I've been playing with a lot of the same people for 20 years. It's insane. And the youngsters. Oh, my doggies. I've got 4 dogs. I thought I was sort of more like a kind of a tight player. But I've been told many, many times that I am absolutely not that, and that I'm very aggressive. And people tell me that I'm scary, and I
Love it. So I've got 2 questions based off the poker question there, Brent's. One is, do you ever just get to F around with people at the table and start throwing out different voices to throw them off their game? Like, when you're throwing in your cards, your chips, all that kind of stuff, because that would probably freak somebody out to get a odd voice coming from you. And then 2, with all this Asajj Ventress stuff going on, and with Sabak being such a big part of Star Wars, have you ever said, hey, Dave, maybe we throw me into playing a hand of cards in some future Asajj treat that we might have?
I never actually thought about that. Isn't that weird? And I don't know what Dave, Dave must know that I play. I know most people that I work with know that I play, but I don't know if I ever talked to Dave about poker. That's a really good. I'm gonna have to bring that up with him. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
What was the other question?
Oh, do you ever use some of your voices? Yeah, when you're playing.
I think, again, people tell me this, then I have no idea that I do it, that I'm constantly doing voices, and I don't actually realize that I'm doing it. Now, this is the thing. At the poker table, what I love about my life is that there are many people who know me, but they have no idea who I am or what I do. And I don't tell people. It's like, do you guys know Bill Faberbaki, who plays Patrick in SpongeBob?
Mm-hmm.
You know who I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. From
Bill's
Coach. Yeah.
Bill's also a poker player. And he also keeps under wrap. Well, I happen to have been playing with Bill 2 days ago. And it's like great, because we're like, nobody knows. Like, some people recognize him because he was a coach.
Right. Dauber.
But besides that, they have no idea he's Patrick. If they did, And so, like, most people don't know. But, over the years, sometimes people say to me, they're like, I heard you were a voiceover person. And I was like, oh, yeah. Sometimes I'd say, oh, I think they're confusing me with somebody else. I say, yeah, Yeah.
That's awesome.
One more poker question. Is there a lucky hand? Well, actually 2. One, is it just No Limit Hold'em, or do you play all of the tournaments? Are you like an Omaha? Are you a 7
I'm not a mixed game player. I'm a purist. No, I'm just a dummy. And if to be a mixed game player, you have to be like, I don't know. My brain doesn't, I would say I'm at max capacity with just trying to become a great, no limit player.
Gotcha.
But I know my friends who play, who are mixed games, they're like, it makes you a better player if you play other games and like Omaha and stuff. And I love Omaha, but I'm not good at it. And I feel like, just like voiceover, because I feel this way about voiceover, doesn't matter how long you've been doing it, you can always get better. And I feel that way about poker, and that's what I love about it. And that's why it fills my soul, is that it never gets old, and I never am good enough. And that's the way I feel about voiceover.
Do you have a favorite starting hand? Are you like a pocket rockets? Are you like a 7 deuce offsuit? Like what?
Who doesn't love aces? Come on.
Big Slick, or what is it? Is it Big Slick? What
Big Slick. Yeah. I'm a creative person, so I will get creative. But I'm also I've spent the last 20 years studying poker. So if you get deep into poker, it's just like you get deep into all of this stuff. It changes up how you play. So of course, to win poker, you can't just play good hands. You have to you have to be creative, but you have to be smart about it. So you have to learn about position, and you have to learn about all those things. So I'll play any hand if I'm in the right position, or it's the right situation, or I've got someone at the table that really bugs me. So I try not to get up, but I am playing with mostly dudes. There are more and more women playing. There's about 3% women playing. But like there's plenty of guys that like don't want to get beat by a chick. Mostly old guys. The new guys, the younger guys are, but a lot of
They're
old
hip.
guys.
They're with it.
They're like, they know like chicks, but still, it's still like 90% of the time when I'm playing poker, there are no other chicks playing.
Okay.
There was nobody today, no other woman in Commerce Casino today when I was there. At least
Alfie or D-Doc, you guys got next? Anything you want to hit?
I got nothing on poker. Everything I know about poker I learned from Kenny Rogers, so I'm out of this conversation.
Gotta know
So
when to
am
hold
I.
'em.
Oh, we can go back to Asajj. We can go to other characters.
Come on. He's like,
Yeah.
I got something.
Are you allowed to
Well,
like
I-
whip out an evil laugh like while you're playing poker? Like if someone does
Oh,
something,
yeah.
you're allowed to be like,
You can do anything you want. I don't think I could play naked, and that would a lot of people. But I mean, there's no rules in terms of how you can be or act. They just want you to be civil.
Yeah.
Some places are strict about F-bombs and such.
Did you
But-
ever get on like the World Poker Tour or any of the televised stuff?
Yeah, I mean, anybody can be on World Poker Tour or World Series of Poker or any of the events. You just have to pay your money.
Well, yeah, but so have you ever made like a table, like a TV table for any of
Yeah,
those?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I have.
I'll be
And
tuning in.
I keep what I love about it is that I still have this desire to keep getting better and to study and so I feel like poker is just like voiceover is evolving, and now there's so many the youngsters coming up now are all into like things like solvers and stuff, so it's like, and math brains and all that stuff that's like way over my head. Like my brain doesn't function at that high level.
So you're not calculating the number of outs and the number of the chances and what's on the table and the potentials.
I'm doing that to a certain level, but I would say on a kindergarten level.
I understand.
Maybe
That's
preschool.
why I was not very good, and that's why I became the chip bully and I would
That
easily
works
lose out,
too.
right? Because like if I think I got a good hand, I'm gonna try to bully you out of the hand.
Right. So,
Because
this is the thing. It's like with people who play who are like way, way deep into it, they can tell when people know how to play and when they don't. They can tell someone just bullying, but who doesn't know. So they know how to bully back. And so that's the thing about learning about this stuff is like, I can tell when a guy's just, I wanted to say effing with me, but
Man.
I can tell all these things now. I'm an old lady.
Well, I'm going to throw it back to Asajj real quick because the more we're talking about this, and I know I threw that idea out there, but about the cards, but man, now my head's kind of spinning and thinking timeline wise, could we get a Lando and a Han Solo somewhere pre New Hope playing cards against Asajj Ventress in a seedy bar cantina somewhere? That you talk about, who wouldn't watch that scene right
That
there?
would be
That would be.
So what you need to do is you need to Mr. Filoni.
You're the one with the wait. Hold on. You're the one with the contact with Filoni. We're just a couple of dudes sitting in our houses in Indiana. You're the one that's actually had meetings with them and listened to him pontificate about Godzilla and Star Wars.
He's the one he's actually like, he listens to what fans say, what fans like, what fans care. Because he's one of it, so he's like, he loves like the stuff. He'll tell me things. He's like, I was just reading, a fan was just talking about blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, wow, man. Because, fans tend to know way more than the people that create what's going on. pretty
They
crazy.
they do crazy podcasts and things like that. So yeah.
Well, they may be listening to us because I've been begging for a finale of a show to become a movie, and that's what's happening with Mando now. So
Yeah.
Mm,
who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe they're listening now. Who knows? But I doubt.
yeah.
it.
I think
Alfie.
I
know.
think
go ahead.
timeline wise, that really wouldn't be too far off because isn't Solo only a few years after Revenge of the Sith?
Something
Yeah,
like that.
I think so.
See?
So I mean, that
'Cause
would
I
make. Yeah.
We'll do some digging on that end. We'll do some digging on that.
like-
Alfie or D
I
Duck.
like I like what you're writing. I really
Thank
do.
you.
Hello, Mr.
Thank you.
Filoni. This is Joe. We were friends with Nika.
Always
We
wanted
have an
And-
idea.
And Vanessa Marshall.
Hear me
and
out. Hear me out. I have an idea. Hear me out.
Yeah.
I will be CCing the rest of the guys from Rule the Galaxy on this, so we all know what's going on. Please get back in touch with us as soon as possible. May
I
the
love
force be with you.
it's
perfect.
gotta work.
There
gonna
you
work.
go.
Yay! Oh, I love
So-
this.
So I can go back and talk to since I'm the educator and I do the speech, and they pop into voices, and if they want to go into voice acting. So I'm going to kind of
Yeah.
not wrap it up, but like this kind of what would you tell some of these newbies that are trying to jump into this? Like what advice would you give to somebody trying to become a voice actor nowadays?
Well, there's both great things nowadays and things that make it more difficult. The great things are that now everything is online. So there's much more access to
Mhm.
wherever you are, being able to be a part of something. And also just because people are creating their own content and putting it online, and you can get people to see what you do. But this is the first thing I would say. This is what I always say to the youngsters. You want to get comfortable in front of a microphone, because part of what will make you a successful voiceover person is that you're comfy doing, like, even if you're just an actor, it's still hard to be a voiceover actor because you have to use your imagination and you have to be able to, you want to work on your range. That's the
Mhm.
first thing. You don't. If you're someone who is just a one-trick pony, then it's your career isn't going to last that long. So you want to try to find as many voices inside of you as you possibly can. Then you want to get comfortable on a mic. So that means that either like take a class, even like do stuff on your own. And the things that they have now that they didn't have back when we were younger is that, like, you can create your own content, and you want to get
Mhm.
that content, because it used to be where you would have, reels. You'd make a reel, and then you need to get an agent, and then your agent would get. But now people are jumping over all of that stuff.
Yep.
If you create something to show how talented you are, that's what you want to get to an agent, because an agent is the person who's going to get you the auditions, and they want to see what kind of range you have. And you're more likely, there are different kinds of voiceover, but obviously in the animation world, you're going to be much more, someone's going to sign you more likely if you can show that you can do many different characters. So practice doing as many different characters as you can, and then create a reel of some sort. And then you want to get that reel to, there aren't that many agents. And most of animation is cast out of Los Angeles.
Mhm.
So you want to try to get one of the agents that's in Los Angeles. All this stuff that, like, you'll see online where people are trying to take your money to help you, most of that stuff is bull.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So don't, there's real agents who are going to be able to get you the auditions. The other way, I mean, obviously, whole world that I was never a part of is, like, there are people from all the studios who are grabbing people who are online, who are influencers or whatever, and hiring them for parts. So you don't have to jump through all the hoops that we used to do.
Mhm.
But the way those people are going to see you is when you create something that you put up and you get lots of people to see it, and they're going to see how talented you are. Because I mean, I'm one of the old school people now, which is so crazy. But like a lot of the new youngsters I see coming in, they were like found online. They weren't found the old school way. They were found because, like, maybe they made some kind of cool, funky animation thing, and it got lots of hits. And so, but just in terms of the likely, just in terms of what you need to do is you need to practice your range of characters, and I would say that's the biggest thing. Because
That's awesome.
because that's the other thing, is that because we're in this massive universe now that everything is online, there's so many more people who are going up for a part
Mm.
than there used to be. Back when I started, it was like you'd go in and you'd audition, and maybe there would be, you were up against, depending on the part, 10 to 100 people. Now you're up against 10 to thousands of people. You know what I mean? It's a very different thing. So I feel really lucky because, I still have the relationships that I've had for a long time, or I'm still on shows that I've been doing for a long time. If I wasn't, I don't know, I would just be like, whoa, it's so overwhelming.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Does anybody have any more questions? I could keep going asking 100 questions, but I don't want to monopolize, especially since we're going for an hour and 15. I don't want to keep Nika much longer. I want to respect her time here. Alfie, go ahead.
Yeah, please.
I have one more
Like,
question.
he talks so much, Alfie. He talks so much.
I know. That's my biggest problem is I overtalk. I apologize for that. Again, sorry to go back to the Clone Wars in Asajj, but
Really sorry.
in this discussion we're having about making films, TV shows,
Yeah.
was there a difference in the Clone Wars movie versus the Clone Wars TV show, or was it more like you produced 3 episodes and somebody decided we should just make this into a movie and put it out there?
No, I think they planned on that from the beginning. They planned on making those 3 episodes, making it a movie, and then making it a show. So I think that was always in the cards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
like it.
I felt like there was like a whole other Clone Wars movie that could be made that never happened. But was it as much fun as Jaina as it seems like from all of Kenobi Adventure since your top notch? Yes. James. Well, James is incredible.
He
James,
is.
like, I mean, boy, what a joy. Like, everyone I got to work with in Clone Wars is like so incredibly talented and so nice and so giving, and so that's the thing about voiceover people, is that it's not the same kind of ego stuff, you know what I mean? And everybody just kind of like loves to each other love. And James is a very what I remember first most thinking about James when I first started working with him was that he took his craft so seriously, and he was just so about his craft, and that was like a beautiful thing. It was like working with a Shakespearean actor,
Mhm.
and he's so much fun, and he's just so easy to work with. I mean, I didn't have any bad experience in the whole, like everybody's like a family, and everybody was so loving and lovely and open. Even like, with Ashley, it was like, that was her first thing that she did. She was the little youngster, and she was just so lovely and wonderful. And she took that situation and really, turned it into her life, I was so blown away by that.
Well, we have been, our little group here was just so honored and really appreciative. You were mentioning conventions. There's one called the ICCC. It's ICCC. It's in Nashville. You should look it up. We know the guy who runs it. I'm sure he would love to have you there because in 2022 we got to meet a ton of the Clone Wars cast: Matt Lanner, James Arnold Taylor, Ashley Eckstein, and Anna Graves, who played Duchess Satine.
Yeah.
And then in 2023 they had the Rebels cast with Vanessa Marshall, Tia Sakar,
Steve Bloom,
Steve Bloom, Taylor Gray,
and his wife, Steve Bloom's wife, who played that.
Yeah, Elizabeth.
Yeah. So just Michael Havens runs that, and he's a great guy. If you'd ever want us to connect you with him, he would love to have you out there. And I'm sure there's plenty of casinos in Nashville because just makes
That's
sense
all.
to have casinos.
That's all that matters to me.
But
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I love it, and I've been wanting to go to. I've never been to Nashville.
oh,
Cool.
it's a great
So
city.
I would actually love that. I would love that.
Okay.
This is the year of saying yes to things, and if it comes my way, and if I'm invited, I'm saying yes.
D-Doc, do you remember Nashville?
I was in bed till 4 o'clock, I think, the day after our last day at the convention. So I had a good time. It was a very fun experience.
Well, and Nika, I'm not going to get into D-Doc's late night drinking here. So you
That sounds
mentioned
fun. Let's
It,
do
I-
it was a very good
We'll-
time. Bands
we'll
on
do a
every
whole
floor of every building. It's crazy.
But you were talking about James Arnold Taylor, and I think one of the things that's so cool about Star Wars is, to some people, Alec Guinness is Obi-Wan Kenobi. To some people, Ewan McGregor is. To some, James Arnold Taylor. I mean, if you think about it, screen time, he's probably got more screen time across all he's done than maybe any of the other ones.
Yeah.
But looking at that, think about this. You are Asajj Ventress. Like
Yeah.
there's not
Yeah.
3 or 4 people as of yet. There's not 3 or 4 people playing one role. That voice, that character is you. They just animated what you've created as a character.
Yeah.
That's got to be pretty cool to think that's your creation mixed along with that artist there.
Yeah. I that's why I feel so in gratitude that I want to try to yeah, baby, headless nerd stock. I mean, yeah, I'm, and it's funny because people are like, I wonder when they're going to do the live action Asajj and who would it be, and I think about that too because I was like, who could be me?
You're sitting there with 2 lightsabers, like, what do you mean? Who is it going to be? Come on.
No, it's like usually there's the on camera, and so when you go do the animated, like James did, he's getting influences from that, but that hasn't happened yet with Asajj. So I'm like, who would it be? Angelina.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hard one to do because
who did you throw?
the character is the voice.
It's the voice, but like there's like Angela. I saw someone said like Scarlett Johansson. Like whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but I'm like someone who is. It's like a very. So who is it going to be? Is it gonna be someone that we don't know yet, or is it because of course they're going to do a live action aside.
So cool.
Who would it be? I mean. I don't know. I think maybe Angelina could pull it off. She's got that face. She'll shave her head.
Uma Thurman, Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, because the thing with Asajj is she's not young and she's not old. She's right there in the middle. She's like she could be any age really. I would just be bummed if they made her really young because they shouldn't. You know what I mean? Because she's not. She's got some life.
Yeah.
And
So
she's been through the wars for sure.
Yeah.
since I'm going to throw this out there to everybody, since we're talking about this, hair on Ventress? Question mark.
I mean, I probably.
I don't want to get you in trouble, but I'm just saying, like, because that's a change. I mean, that's a huge change to everybody that saw that.
It's a big deal. I'm. Oh gosh, should I say this out loud?
If it's
I
going
don't
to
want
get you in trouble, don't
You
do
can
it.
say what you want, but I don't want to get you in trouble.
Well, let's just say I'll put it this way. Okay, we're all going to get used to her in a certain way, but and I think part of it is because she has sort of like grown into this different person, and so I think they're softening her up a bit, in many ways. Internally and externally, and so I think that was part of it. But damn, I love her bald head. I love her. I mean, talk about a hot bald chick. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Oh,
I agree. That's where I was coming from.
Man. She's so hot bald, and not every woman can pull that off.
No,
No.
I agree 100%, and that's why
No,
I have a friend. I have a friend that plays the game, and he's still kind of taken aback. But he's like, it's just, I
think if
that's
enough
all he says.
people,
Is basically that.
maybe if enough people have a problem with it, maybe they'll do an episode and she shaves her head or something. You know, she's like in the bathroom of like a mobile station,
Yes.
on, you know, or whatever.
I'm just thinking of Shooter and
Yeah,
what's his name?
you know, she's just like,
Well,
she
we just had Sabine cut her hair in. I mean, she didn't shave it, but she cut her hair in a scene, right?
Oh,
comes down and then she comes up and she's like,
Yeah. My thoughts go to the scene in the Royal Tannenbaums, but that's actually a terrible scene when Luke oh my god, Luke Wilson is shaving his head. Royal Tannenbaums. I don't know if you ever seen that one.
I love that movie.
Wes Anderson.
Gosh, I love that movie.
You know, it would be really, really badass is if you just took the freaking yellow lightsaber and just turned and went and just slid it right off, right like that.
That would be amazing. I wish I was just like, you know, whatever, younger, in really good shape, or they gave me a trainer and they just shaved my head and said, come on, just go for it. Just be Asajj. And I'd be like, yeah.
Who says that can't happen? Who says that cannot happen?
Yeah,
There you
I
go.
agree.
Yeah, maybe she'll have her, return to Asajj true form moment in the series.
I
There
mean,
you
they
go.
just young me up, right, with special effects and stuff, right?
Right,
And
they got de-aging. There's
yeah,
de-aging.
they de-age me, and they could like get rid of some of my fat. All it would be is like trainer, just hire a trainer, get these guns.
Wow.
That's I watch like the behind the scenes stuff with Rosario Dawson using two lightsabers as Ahsoka, like for the Ahsoka show, and I'm just like, that is so difficult. Like I try to imagine being able to use two of those because there's definitely got to be some weight to it. So it's hard.
I mean, they probably gave her a trainer for like a year before she did it. I mean, and I'm like, do that for him. I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do whatever you want me to do.
Put on the Rocky IV training music and let's
There we
go.
go.
There you go.
Well,
let's get a montage, training montage.
If they do like an Asajj, on camera situation, maybe like, she's got her show or whatever, and maybe they'll just like throw me a bone and like put me in a bar scene and I'm the bar or I'm the drunk chick at the bar or whatever, one of those things. Little homage.
That's right. You be at the sabak table. What I again, I appreciate all the time you've given us, Nika. This has been great, and the comments, I've been loving reading all the comments coming across here. This has been fantastic. Does anybody have any closing questions before we let Nika go and get back to her either poker playing or taking care of her child or the 4 dogs or whatever?
All right, so bear with me. This is the one question that, like, it's a running gag. It's our gig. I have to ask it for anybody who comes on the first time. So, some context to start off with. So, and this may come in handy. So, we were talking one time about lightsaber blades at the Galaxy Edge. So that not just the blades, but like the hilt, the handles. And one of our former co-hosts started to hate on Count Dooku and Count Dooku's curved lightsaber. And he said he was there and no one wants to go get Count Dooku's lightsaber. And I wasn't on that week, but I had to come and I had to, like, the next week stand up for my guy, Count Dooku.
It makes him unhappy.
In their conversation, they're like, Dooku, no one wants to have it. He just became stumpy, right? Because he lost his arms and he lost his head and what is it? The Return of the, which one was it? The third
Revenge of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
So this has been a running gag because I wanted to stand up for Count Dooku, and I don't know how many lightsaber hilts you know of in the Star Wars world, but it's one of those like personality tests that we ask all of our guests. Which lightsaber hilt that you know of from the Star Wars world is your favorite?
Oh, gosh.
This is kind of a weighted question.
This is a weighted question. Can I just say my own?
I mean,
yes.
I like that's fine. I like that, right?
I mean,
she's got. Aren't they curved as well?
Yeah, they are.
Curved.
2 of them,
And they
curved,
connect.
just like Dooku's.
Yeah, they're like.
Dooku.
I mean, like I'm just gonna take Easy.
Take the easy way out.
Yeah. I'm also like not versed in,
Yeah.
language.
No worries. It's
Yeah,
just
I told you.
it's
I'm
the
like,
shtick.
I warn you.
It's kind of my shtick. I liked asking it. It's kind of like a personality type question that I
I
like to ask.
know, and I'll say like the most badass one, which is mine. So I'll just say that just because I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Perfect.
You go, at some point I just need to go and do some studying of this world so that I can answer questions and act like I know what I'm talking about.
So
Well, if
just for-
Mr.
oh, sorry.
Filoni's listening tonight, which he might be because one of his stars is on the show, if he's listening, just tell him, give me some study sessions. Let me dig deeper into our lightsaber blades, and let's practice the sabachan. And I mean, we're moving forward. So
And let's go to live action, baby. We're ready.
that's
I
right.
would love to think that he was watching this, but he's either playing hockey
Mm.
or
Or
sleep.
watching the pens, right? Watching the pens.
Yeah, I'm watching the pens.
That guy is so busy. So yeah, or he's watching Godzilla.
D-Doc or Alfie, what do you want to close shop with?
I'll just want to say thanks for joining us on here. It's so funny because as we're talking about like you going into live action, I'm just like, we had Vanessa Marshall on and we're talking to her too about her character going into live
Have her on,
action.
or you're gonna have her on?
We did.
No, we
did
had
have her
Vanessa
on.
on. Yeah.
We had her on right before the Ahsoka show came out. So it was
Yeah.
funny to talk to her about her character going into live action and how she
Probably
felt
could
about
answer
it.
a lot more than I could. She's good like that.
Yeah. It's just really cool to have you guys on here and talk, and it's just we appreciate it. I'll say thank you for coming on, and I'll definitely be replaying your Cuckoo Loca voice for my kids tomorrow when they
Oh, yay! Good day.
Love it.
Well, thank you guys for thanks for noticing me.
No, I mean that the character you play is a very meaningful character to a lot of us. It's one of the favorites of a lot of ours. And again, we said at the beginning, your voice, while the character is drawn perfectly, the character is put together in the scenes perfectly. The voice is what makes it have the depth that it does. And that's you. That's a hats off to you for doing that, because if that character would have come out with a different voice, would it have had the same kind of effect?
Right.
Especially in that banter with like Obi-Wan and Anakin and Ahsoka. I mean, let's face it. I completely forgot that some of my favorite scenes were when Asajj Ventress and Ahsoka were teaming up at the end of that season 5.
Yeah.
That was some incredible Star Wars right there. Two female characters that basically grabbed the hold of Clone Wars and said that we're running with this. So
Right.
it was really great. But Alfie, any closing thoughts from you?
It's been great talking to you. I can honestly say Asajj is one of my favorite voices on the Clone Wars. Sorry that we have spent so much time on going back to that.
Oh no, I
but
wish I could. Anyway,
No worries.
I just said, at some point, down the road, we'll talk more.
So
No.
in a couple more months, or a couple more years.
The
No,
history of
don't answer that.
lightsaber hilts.
We'll get you and Vanessa on here and let you guys both go to town with just like some voice battles and stuff. Because she's a rock star as well. So
Totally a rock star. Love that woman.
well, one, I can't thank you enough. I'm goofy enough to get this group of guys here together every week, and we just, this is our, instead of us going and playing poker or us going to the golf course, we sit here for an hour or two and sit and just talk like this, and it's our little release from the real world. And we can't thank you enough for responding to us, taking the time to do this. And just know that it's not just our little group who's like fandom for you. You see it, and when you get out from under that rock on social media, like you mentioned, you'll see the banter that's out there just praising the return of that character. And it's just awesome to see what you've done to make the fandom really fall in love with that character in Star Wars. So thank you for being a part of what we're doing.
Thank you, guys.
No worries.
Thanks for ruling the galaxy.
Oh
my
gosh.
goodness.
That was awesome. To our To all of our fans, to all of our listeners, thank you guys so much, and for all the comments tonight. It's been
Come on,
great.
man. I've been holding it in for 2 hours.
I know, but that was perfect timing.
Until next week, hey, may the force be with you.